Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing today? G'day, GG. How are you, mate? Hey, Wayne. Hope things are good. Let me know you can hear and see me okay. If that's that'll be good to know. I am well, thank you, Wayne. All good, thank you. All right, let's kick things off. And of course, these are my opinions, not necessarily representative of Go Markets. So please bear that in mind. Of course, we are looking at live markets, so this is for educational purposes only. And please bear in mind that you got to do your own due diligence on anything that you see here, and of course, manage risk well. And it's an interesting sort of market, as it often is. As we kick things off, let's just have a look at what's coming across the news for right now. Of course, overnight, the US equities snapped a 3-day losing streak to close higher across all indices. On no real news, really. There wasn't much economic data come out. The earnings from the previous day were actually okay, with the exception of Netflix, which got bashed. And as we talked about last night at length, the general tailwinds seem significantly, or seem noticeably stronger than the headwinds at the moment. So, but it's really going to be the next week that dictates what's going to happen from here as more US earnings come across the wires. US futures have been trading mildly negative throughout the morning and in Asia. And although they are starting to just pick up a little bit, we'll have a look at charts in a moment. There's some interesting moves just going on right now. Asian markets have followed that US lead. Bit damp on the ASX, although there are some interesting charts to have a look at. Part of that might be continuing, or what appears to be continuing, debates with China. Some more news came across the wires today about contracts in Victoria being cancelled, etc., and the Chinese aren't very happy, and that's dampened down possibly the ASX for fear of retaliation, probably the AUD as well. But having said that, we're all in positive right across the line, and as I said, Nikkei's outperformed, but they've underperformed of late. But it could present an interesting opportunity as well. We'll have a look at that second. US dollar index has really not had a good couple of weeks. It's moved down to test support, and precious metals are moving at last to the upside. There's a significant move in both gold and silver. Today, really, there is some significant data out today and tomorrow, for that matter. And of course, we've got some more earnings coming across the wires. These really ramp up next week. We've got, on a data front, we've got some US housing data. I think it's the pending home sales due, and we've got obviously the weekly jobs data that always come out on a Thursday. Tomorrow we've got PMI data coming across the wires globally, from Australia, from the UK, from Europe, and from the US. That's going to be a really important number with, as again we sort of explained last night in the circle session, with g'day Rachel, good to see you. Hope you got the email okay with what you needed. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting set of figures tomorrow. If we get another pause, as we did last month in some of the data that's coming across, we could just see markets starting to get a little bit uptight. Good. Okay, all good. So let's just put some meat around these bones and look at the futures contracts to start with. These are about as best as they've been all morning, really. We actually gapped down on Asian Open after that good move last night, and the Dow's almost neutral. The S&P and Nasdaq aren't far from that, and the Russell was down about 0.55% earlier on, but seems to be picking up a little bit. We'll notice that the VIX is still quite high compared to that which it's been, and that's really a reflection of uncertainty relating to earnings. On the currency front, the euro looks to be the outperformer, the USD going down. Commodity-based currencies only slightly to the upside. Very difficult to see obvious FX opportunities. unless you're very nimble. Gold and silver pretty flat. And we've just got some pullback in oil as well. 65 is quite important for Brent, 60 for WTI crude. We'll see how those sort of shape up over the next 12 hours or so. As I said, most of the important data is happening this week, is happening in the next couple of days. So we can already see that we've got so later on today, I'm sorry, I'm just moving screens around. We've got the interest rate decision out of the ECB, but more importantly is going to be the policy statement. Nobody expects those interest rates to move. There's those existing home sales. So the two really important home sales data, pending home sales is probably more important, but existing home sales will be looked at. And then of course we've got the US jobs data as well, which is here. Now, as I said, tomorrow we've got PMI data coming out across the board, Germany, Eurozone, UK, Australia, and later on in the US. So tomorrow's going to be quite a big day for data. And as I said, really quite important is we'll see some improvement. G'day, Keith. So that's where it's at in terms of earnings tonight. If I just put up this week's, you can sort of see that there is quite a few tonight. The major players will be American Airlines, AT&T, a Dow component before market open. D.R. Horton, big in the home building space. Freeport McMoran is big in copper and general base metals, but copper particularly. So a lot coming across the wires tonight. And next week is when it really ramps up. So just be careful if you're entering any share CFD positions, because in the US, because things will be thrown around, but you can see how these ramp up next week. A couple of hundred earnings on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, with lots going on. Hugh, let's see what. BOC issued a hawkish statement. Does this usually affect the AUD and NZ? Sometimes. Is that just across the wires now, Hugh, or is it something that was? I think they reported yesterday, didn't they? But we'll have a look at that in a moment. Let's have a look at some charts. Here's the US 500 daily. You can see that candle yesterday almost removed completely the previous day's candle. You can see how these have picked up significantly. If we look at a 5-minute chart, there's where we opened at. We shifted down, and really we've had a nice run up over the last sort of half an hour or so. Just a little bit of a pullback now. Nasdaq is not in a dissimilar place. I wonder if that's yeah, I wonder if that's the BOC impact. We'll see what happens going forward with that. We'll have a quick look at the AUD USD, just see where that's sitting at in the last 5 minutes. It's been very choppy this morning due to the, as I said, due to the sort of trade issues with China ongoing to some degree. So that may be more of an issue than. G'day, Michael. I hope you can hang on in there, buddy. Let's just check in on the Kiwi, because so we've essentially gapped up quite significantly on the Kiwi, but you can see again a really choppy session. If we just look at the 30-minute chart just to make sense of this a little bit, but you can see how choppy it was on open. So this is the Kiwi 30-minute chart. So we're back to where we opened the Asian session, after really quite a strong day yesterday. So it looks a little mellower than the Aussie, with less news influencing that directly. But if we look at a daily chart, you can see why we've got some importance going on about technically where it is. It could be a move up to around about 72.40. So if you like the 30-minute chart, you're going to have to be very sharp to make anything out of that. And I think this is going to be a common picture we're seeing. Let's quickly have a look at the US dollar. You can see there that 91 is pretty important. Just take it out a bit. So these are the lows we hit this year. We're around about that 89.80 level. So if we do break 91 and start to challenge 90, that could come back into play. If we notice Euro USD, we talked about this level last night, around about 120.40. You can see why that's quite important. So we've broken through that level now. Just a little bit of a pullback in the last 30 minutes. Let's just put that on the 5-minute chart. Yeah, that's 15 minutes or so. But it does look relatively strong to push us up about 30 pips to around about that 120.75 level in the first instance. Which again, context is important. If you're trading long term, you'd be really looking for a target of around about 120, 140. So around about 100 pips from where we are right now. G'day, David. Okay, so US yen. Actually, there we go, US yen, we're back again. So US yen really has broken through a key level here at 108.37, but so that happened, what's that, 4 trading sessions ago. But you'll see how the price since then has just skirted along this 50 EMA without any real impetus to take it downwards. That's interesting and noteworthy. Whether there's enough for a bounce off that remains to be seen, but there may be an opportunity if it breaks back over 108. There's about 70 pips in that, but yeah, be patient until then. So as you can see, it's really actually quite difficult to pick a trade at the moment on the FX front. If we look at the Aussie yen, you can see that's triangular. We've got almost a textbook symmetrical triangle being set up. Take it back to the hourly chart, and this level looks important here at 83.85. A break of that, next key level is around about 40. We might pause there about 27, 28 pips above, but at 52 pips, that might be the long term or the medium term target. And if we look at GB pound yen, again, let's just quickly check in on the daily chart just to get context. So you can see we've essentially trading around this 150.55 level, which looks quite important. We actually broke through it last week. It was resistance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days out of 6. Broke up and then moved down again to test that level again. That looks interesting from a technical point of view. And so we've potentially got, again, about 50 pips in this. Even if you're delaying the entry to see if it'll break that closing high on the hourly chart. Let's put it on 30-minute chart. It doesn't actually give us any more information. So that would be the potential entry level. I would be pretty ruthless about taking profit on this. So I'm making this the chart of the day because I don't see anything else that's really moving hard. So the GB pound yen, if we get a break over 150.81, if you want to play, if your risk profile is high, you could potentially enter that early because that was only one candle at 150.68. So that's about 13 pips up from where we are now. But this 150.55 looks like a nice bounce level. Take on the 4-hourly chart, you'll see again So it's almost a rounded bottom type of formation. You can see the lower lows, and then we get higher lows, and we're sort of culminating in potentially a break on the 4 hour of that 150.72, and that correlates also with previous price action here and here. So that's, I thought, was an FX chart of interest. Outside of that, it's really difficult to see. We had some response on the Canadian dollar right across the board. They released their interest rate decision and policy statement last night. You can see the strength in that in one hit. Just put on the hourly chart, you can see it occurred in about a 15-minute candle, but really since then it's gone nowhere. So we're pretty flatlining on that since Asian Open. So that's the joys of data for you. Okay, so that's where the FX pair is, and as I said, that GB pound yen probably looks like the favorite of the day so far. But I just want to reiterate, it is again an FX market that lacks a little direction for right now. That could obviously change once the ECB policy statement and that US jobs data comes out later on this evening, but that may be quite late for some of you that are based on the East Coast to take advantage of. Okay, so let's look at what's happening in the with the ASX. Oh, one more to show before I forget. Here's the Japanese major index, the Nikkei, okay, on the CFD. So what we've got here is a significant bounce off 28471 over the last couple of days. So the Nikkei has really struggled over the last couple of weeks, just drifting downwards there. But we're trading towards the top of the session today, and just keep on edging higher. If we look at a 15-minute chart, you'll see it's just continuing to move higher. Now, in the first instance, there is this 200 MA sitting there, but really that bounce off this level appears to be more important in terms of a line rather than this 200. So if we get a bounce and then a pop over that, a further pop up, then we could be up for around about 90 points. 900 points to the upside over the next few days. So we like this as a chart. On the hourly chart, it looks really quite positive. There's Asian trading. So we look as though, even if you're going to trade the short term, we could have a target there at 29,390, which would be a 300 point move. And so that certainly caught our eye, certainly as an index chart of the day, just simply because it's moving. It's got some ground to make up, and we're seeing sort of that happen over the course of the trading day. So that's our index chart of the day, is the Nikkei. Okay, as promised, ASX. Bit of a strange morning really going on. So let's just have a quick look at what's going on here. So we actually moved really surprisingly into negative territory earlier in the session, but we seem to have recovered that a little bit. There's what's happened in the day. So really quite a choppy day. We've got about 0.4% was the high of the day, but we are holding on, of course. I'll move back to that 7,000. Interesting price action right at the end of yesterday's trading. That pulled us back up to 7,000, or as near as it makes no difference. Of course, we've consolidated that, but you can see that level there, which was hit at 6,998. Actually, the down, that was yesterday's close. So we actually popped about 6 points below that, but we've seemed to have recovered. And now we're moving towards the top of the session. But advances versus decliners, we have got a 2-to-1 ratio going on, and it's a very mixed bag again. we've got banks generally moving to the upside. Those still quite mixed. We see CBA are outperforming a little bit. Bank of Queensland are down. If we look at the resource sector, BHP are really underperforming. Was Minerals the same? That came on the back of some news, of course, and Rio also down. So a bit of a drag from the resource sectors. Healthcare is doing pretty well. We're going to look at a couple of those in a moment. Afterpay turning positive, but not by much. And likewise with Xero and Zip, but those stocks were fairly mutilated over the last couple of days. So the question is it time? Is that the pullback done? Is it time to have a look at those again? So let's have a look at some charts. As I said, there's a few really interesting ones going on. We had a look at Wesfarmers last week. In fact, we've been looking at Wesfarmers just about every day we've run this. And it just does not want to go down. We had a little bit of a retracement going on. You see yesterday's candle, which wasn't unusual yesterday, because they're down 1.5%, and we ended up down 0.25% or something really small and insignificant. So there's Wesfarmers yesterday's candle, and you can see it's up again today. So it looks as though it's shaping up for a test of this high at 56.34. Not far to go now. We've been talking about this really since this, if we just put it on a line chart, certainly since that break there at around about 54.13. There was never going to be much upside in this, but now we're getting sort of at an interesting level. Now RMD, which I think were our chart of the day on Tuesday, obviously had a little pullback, but we can see ourselves moving back to this 27. Doesn't want to give it up, and looks as though it's setting itself up again. We'll look at Afterpay, up slightly. Doesn't know what to do with itself right now, but a couple of things that appear to be reasonably clear is that there's some support here at 120. So just a little bit of buying coming back into that. So a couple of others, right? These are the ones that really caught our eye, apart from obviously ResMed, which we've already made reference to. Seek, we actually traded up here, but you can see we're starting to get some momentum in this again. This is the high that we tested a couple of weeks ago and then came back from. So as it moves back up towards that level, just keep that itchy trigger finger at bay. But that 3170 level looks quite important. So that's one to keep on the radar. We already had a look at ResMed. Here's Sonic. And Sonic is testing this level, which has been the close level 1, 2, and if we include this time 3 times. We've had a couple of intraday forays over it, but not held it. So 37.17 is key. If we were to look at, let's just change this to, let's just change that to tick volume. So you can see that high, big candle yesterday, some major buying coming in. If we just pop an ATR on this, which is a 14. So around about 68 cents is the ATR. So you might wait for a 30-cent move over that, which would take your entry up to around about, or close price entry up to around about 140, 151, which would be there, and would break the highs of that stray candle there. So that would be interesting. CUV caught our eye as well. So Clinical Pharmaceuticals, you can see we broke through this about 2 weeks ago. We had a little pullback and another little pullback, and now we are testing highs. There is the high close, put it on a monthly chart, you'll see where this sits. So this is not a record high. Let's actually put it on the weekly chart just to try and get a feel for where it may go up to. So it's not unreasonable perhaps to expect a possible challenge of around 33, 37 in the first instance, and then possibly up around to 36. So around about a 9%. Let's just see what that is. Yeah, just under 10%, based on historical charts, potential upside. So this is one that's cooking and is our chart of the day as it has moved over that level. Again, if we just change this to tick volume. As you can see, yesterday's candle was associated with high volume. We'll see where this fits. And again, if we pop an ATR on this, it's around about 45 cents. So we might be tempted to wait until it breaks 31, but that, depending on how aggressive you are. But that looks as though it's cooking and cooking quite nicely, and hence merits our chart of the day tag. Okay, in the US, obviously, we're somewhat strapped by earnings, but nevertheless, there's a couple of interest here. Micron, we popped on yesterday, had a good day yesterday. We like a break of 89.40. You can see how it was a resistance here, temporary support here and here. So this looks like an important level. If we just take it up a smidge, in the technical term, to 90.65, we think that might give a clear route up to test around about this 94 level again, on 94.50. So around about 4.5%. So we like a lot. No, that was the wrong one. Sorry. We have been looking at Nvidia for quite some time. You can see this pullback again to around about 613. So this is essentially what happened, but you can see how we essentially engulfed the previous day's candle body on this with a bounce off the 10 EMA. We're wondering whether this might be setting itself up for another test of 640. But of course, what we need to do, and I just want to reinforce this again and again, is if we look here, we'll type in NVDA and just see when they're due to report. So May the 26th, so we've got over a month on this. In fact, most of the microchips are really after the main part of earnings season has gone, so Micron's the same. So Nvidia could be one that's of interest as well, that's setting up nicely. In terms of where the banks are, after those good earnings last week, most are looking pretty flat. After really a pullback with the pullback in the market overall. So none of these are looking particularly strong technically. So we'd probably stay away from those. Just have a quick check-in on Goldman Sachs that outperformed. So we like Goldman Sachs if we're going to choose a US bank, and this is our chart of the day for the US today. So at 335, we break above. A break above this level could take us up to 350. So around about 4.5%. Now, if we look at valuation associated with Goldman, based on their earnings, they should be trading at around about 400. So they're actually undervalued as a stock as well. The fact that not only are they positioned quite nicely, but they've managed to hold on to what happened post earnings. So outperform the other banks really sort of says this could be one that's waiting to move. So that is why we would be interested in that. And let's just. No worries, Gigi. You take care, buddy. Let me know how you're going. Yeah. Cummings. I might have to go outside the. Let's just. Okay, cool. So Cummins, obviously you don't trade it on MT5. Obviously finished strongly yesterday. Let's look at a 6-monthly chart. Or this is trading in a range, top end around about 265. Yep. Bottom end around 255. So not a great deal of movement in this, but that's taking it right back up towards resistance. So if we do get a break of this line here, just so you can sort of see this along here. So if we do get a break to the upside, then we could potentially see something around there. So could be setting up very nicely, Andre, for a move higher. Just where is that? That's about 275. Not a massive amount in it. I mean, that's $12 up to that level there. Let's just check a yearly chart and just see where that sits. Yeah, so that would be highs, all-time highs on Cummins. I just think, well, maybe look. So there's that level again. If we look at a monthly chart. $12 is $12 though, but I think that could be the resistance there. In terms of when they report, let's just check in on that. Maybe do it by it's not giving us one. Already reported in February, so probably won't report till May. So you have got some time on that. No worries. Yeah, sure, I can. Let's just pop on X. US Steel really going nowhere. Horrible chart. Let's just leave that one. You're welcome, Anthony, anytime, buddy. Tesla. Tesla poking higher again. If you wanted to get interested in Tesla, there's a clear key line there around about 780. And Twitter, yeah, I can put Twitter on as well. Let's just get rid of some of these drawings. Starting to get a bit crowded. So again, Twitter really wouldn't get me excited until it had broken that previous level there. That doesn't look like it's up-to-date data. So that $72 looks important on Twitter. Again, they're likely to be reporting in the next week or so. So just be hyper careful with these. PayPal, yeah, I know we were looking at PayPal previously. So there's PayPal, almost a double top type of formation, really sort of pulled back, nice pull back to a key support at around about that 265 level, and held on to it last night. But really, again, you wouldn't get interested in this until it broke 275. I think we referenced this last time we met. Nufarm, not one we look at often, but nevertheless, quite an interesting chart. So Nufarm really looking as though they're going to push back up. Let's just see where this sits. Yeah, weekly might be better. So you can see that there is a key level around about this 540. Upside on this may be limited to around about $6, but that's a healthy 10%. So that's certainly well worth keeping an eye on. If we look at the daily chart, just sort of take it back, just see if there's any noise. There's not even very much noise in between where we are now and that. Possibly a pause at around about 578. So that looks like a nice setup there, around about 5 or 6%. So good call to have a look at that. And NST again. This is again one of the ones we look at fairly regularly. This looks a bit more interesting than it did the other day, simply because we've got a high close potentially today. So that looks healthy. Nice bounce again off this 10 EMA. Possible upside of around about 6.5% up to that 200 MA. I would expect it possibly to pause there. You can see lots of price action around here. So possibly even before that. So just be cautious if you are looking at this. So you can see that potential highest close. If you are looking at this, then possibly that's one to. I'm not actually sure what Northern Star do, so. But it is worth just checking in when earnings are due on some of the Australian stocks. I mean, you should do that anyway, but no, I didn't mean Microsoft. Let's just have a quick look. We'll ignore market beat. So 8. Oh. Doesn't give us any good information at all. You're rubbish. The ex-dividend date was in March. Let's try market screener, sorry. There we go. Okay, so 20th of April, so it must have gone. Oh no, 24th of August. So yeah, so there's a sales and revenue release actually yesterday, which is probably what's fueled this move higher. So that's probably come out. Market likes that, looking to break that 1160 level. So again, one to keep an eye on. Okay, guys, well, I think I've covered all of your, let's just look at, we can look at FPH. Oh, we mentioned LYC last night and said, look, this is just looking horrible. And if it breaks that 540, we could be down for a big drop. And of course, it's trading at that. And I know that's been a favorite of ours for a while. And let's just look at Flight Centre. Because as with Qantas, it looks as though it's on the turn to the upside. Bounce off the 200 MA. This could be the level at which to get interested. So you can see, yeah, but you may have quite a choppy ride up for the next one. And yes, I'll look at Qantas because we mentioned it last night, and it's one of the stocks on the list. was just trading under that $5 after a little bit of an upset yesterday. But essentially, that's a bounce off the 200 MA. We like $5 on this. We've talked about this so many times. That's the level we like. It did actually trade at that level earlier in the session, but it's just pulled back a little bit. So maybe the market just needs a little more stroking to get it above that $5. Okay. All right, guys. Well, look, I hope that's useful. Thank you for rocking along. Thanks for your comments, your questions, your charts that you got to have a look at. And we shall catch you next Tuesday at the same time, same place. And you know where I am if you need me. So take care, enjoy your weekend, and we shall catch you very, very soon. Thanks, David. You're welcome. Likewise, Ewan, Rachel, Wayne. Good that you managed to hang on in there, Michael. Take care, guys. Bye-bye for now.